What's up, y'all? This is the Art Mentor. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of the basic techniques of painting, blending. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because it's easy enough and it's fun enough just to get involved and absorbed into your painting process. But if you don't know how to blend, then life is going to be difficult and you're not going to achieve the desired effects that you want because you're just going to be honestly just throwing paint and hoping that magic happens, and that's definitely not always the case, and most of the time it is not. And also, I just remember personally learning how to paint and in my experiences in teaching people how to paint, the subject of blending for whatever reason really gets lost in the shuffle, and it's almost like it's an expected thing that somebody else was supposed to teach them at some point. And even if you go ahead and you search on YouTube for this, honestly, there's really not a whole lot out there for how to blend, at least that I have personally found or my students have found. So what I'm going to cover in this video is the 3 main types of blending that I personally use and I personally teach, and these techniques are applicable to all types of painting, whether or not you're painting with tempera, acrylic, oils, gouache, a little bit of watercolor in there, but mostly all the other ones in there. And you'll be able to achieve the desired blending effects that you want by using one or more of these techniques that I'm going to be showing you today. So y'all, let's check this out and let's get messy. Let's bust into this. There are essentially 3 techniques that I teach on how to blend. All right, and you can see that I'm going to show you this both in a linear form and also in a curved form so that you can start to get the idea of how to apply it to different scenarios. Let's start off with our very first style blending, and this bad boy right here, this is called standard layering. And the reason I call it standard layering is because you're going to be applying and blending paints as they've already dried. So as you can see here, these are both completely dry. So this is most frequently what you're going to be facing when you're painting as you're putting down different layers and you need to blend them together, okay? We're going to face this style right here. So here, I've layered my yellow and then I've blended it into some orange, and now I'm ready for some red, and I'm going to add some red in down here as well. So with standard layering, here's what you do is basically, again, you already have dried layers and you're trying to add more onto it. So in putting in my red here, what's going to happen is as I start to apply this, you're going to notice it's going to develop a really hard border. What I want to do is I'm going to clean off my brush here with some water. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this off. What I've done here is I've just gotten the majority of the water off, but if I touch this, this is still quite moist. That's what I need for this next step. So with it just being moist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the moisture in that paint that I just put down and start to drag it up into my orange space here. I'm basically just using the moisture that's inherent in this material in order to help it blend a little bit more nicely. Now, right here, this is starting to get a little patchy, so I'm going to introduce a little bit more orange back into this just to go over it, because this is the spot in which I applied just pure orange. So basically, through using a little bit of moisture and then a little bit of the previous value, it's real easy to blend this stuff together here. All right, you start to get some pretty nice looking blends. See some spots that you need to go ahead and go back to, like I'm starting to see here. I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out too. Now, that's it on a linear format. Now on a curved format, like this sphere here, okay? What we wanna do is we wanna bear in mind a directional quality. And just like in my videos on how to draw with value, I talked to you all about how to properly apply your strokes and your value in a directional quality. In other words, so that it will complement the shape of that object. So in a sphere, you want to use hapu motions. Just like before, I do have to go ahead and come back into some of these spots with some of my orange. So you can always expect to have to do usually at least a couple coats whenever you're going to be blending. All right. And again, I'm just going to use a little bit of water just to blend out that orange into that yellow, making sure I have this is just moist. It's going great. And that's how you're gonna go about blending with standard layering. Again, meaning that you have different layers of paint and you're starting to blend them together. This is how you're gonna get much, much, much smoother blends in between. And this is predominantly how you're gonna do things in painting.
Now our second style of blending, which I'm about to demonstrate right here, is called on-canvas mixing, which I'm about to demonstrate in both a linear and a curved fashion, is that this is your best, most primo way of blending paint.
Okay, so let me just explain what's gonna happen here. Is I'm gonna be blending up 3 different colors together, and they're all going to be all fresh. So in other words, none of this is going to be previously dried up. When you use fully fresh paint, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go from a light blue to a standard blue to green. Basically, when they're already all wet, fresh paint, they blend together the best. So let me show you how this is gonna work. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna start with my lightest value, because whenever you're painting, you should always start with the lightest value. You notice I did this here. I did yellow to orange to red again, because I went in terms of darkness in my colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start off with my light baby blue color here and apply that in both my linear format and in my curved example as well. Now the thing too, you want to remember that as you're going to employ this style of blending is that you are immediately on a clock the second that you touch paint to canvas, or paint to paper in my case here, because it's gonna immediately start to dry. I'm just blending. I'm using a little bit of that technique I showed you before in standard layering, where I'm just using a little bit of a wet brush. And because this is nice fresh paint, it's gonna do exactly what I tell it to. It's gonna give me some nice smooth edges here. And again, because that paint is all nice and fresh, this will blend really nicely together. As I start to, again, I like to go back and forth motions whenever I'm blending paint together. And I have everything already mixed up. So if I start to run out of something, boom, it's easy, it's right there. Nice and accessible for me. So I'm just about finished up with this. Again, I really like this style of blending the best. You always want to have at least 3 values mixed up at a time. When you do that, you're going to be able to quickly pull from whatever you're painting, and you're going to be able to get them nicely blended together because all the paint is already available to you. Okay, so we're just about wrapping this up. It's looking good. And now I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up, introduce a little bit of moisture into this to do it. Again, you can do this with solvents if you're working with oils, or if you're working with acrylics as well. All different kinds of things you can do.
So that's on-canvas mixing.
Now for my final style blending, everybody, I'm going to introduce to you probably something that you've probably done at some point before. I'm going to start this off the same way that I did my wet blending style. And I'm going to be mixing up together this pink and this purple in order to achieve this effect. But I want to take you back to a happy point in your life called childhood. And basically, I'm sure that y'all probably finger painted at some point, am I right? So this last style that I'm showing y'all right now, third style, is called finger smudging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put down these 2 colors. And I find that finger smudging here is going to work best when you're using at least 2 different colors like I'm about to show you here. And I'm going to blend them not with my brush, but instead I'm going to do it with my fingers. And when you do this, you're going to, I find, sometimes get a really nice smudge. I find a lot of people actually prefer this to using a brush when you're going to be blending areas together. It's not my personal preference, but I do find it pretty cool, and I'll tell you why as I walk you through this one. All right, so I'm just applying, again, first this area. Trying to do this really quick because, again, the second that I start to put down paint, it is going to want to immediately dry up pretty quickly. So putting this down, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put down my purple pretty quickly. All right, so just like normally, you're gonna go ahead and use your brush, get that stuff up in there. Start to blend it together a little bit with your brush work, right? Now, using your finger, go ahead, start to use this, blending it back and forth. Gets really nice, cool kind of textural look to it, which I kind of dig. And to be honest, some people do this really, really well. I recommend that for different parts, you use different fingers. Like as I'm trying to get this lighter value up in here, I'm using a different finger for it. But I find this to be a pretty surprisingly efficient method of blending. And who knew that you probably did this and learned this first when you were like 4 years old? So it's pretty awesome. Same thing here as I'm gonna do this curved surface on the sphere. Do the same thing. I'm gonna make sure I got enough coverage first before I do any style of blending. Always wanna make sure you got full coverage first. Go into the areas you're gonna blend a little bit too. So let me go ahead, blend this stuff out. This is surprisingly, it's also, not only is this somewhat effective, it's pretty effective, but it's pretty fun too, right? Takes you back to those good old years, you know, when you didn't have any responsibilities or anything ugly like that. So it gives your artwork, again, like a nice textural quality. Plus you kind of have like a little bit of yourself in here. Literally, like your fingerprints are all over this. And there you have it. You have some really nice finger smudging style blending here. So now, figure out what the best way for you to blend your artworks to get the best, most desired approach. So thank you very much for watching this, and I hope that you can do a great job making your artworks look even better through outstanding blending like that. All right, so there you go. Now you know how to use a variety of different blending techniques. And the one thing that I can say is that there's no concretely correct way or situation in which you have to use these. But instead, what I want you to do is, in your experiences painting, is to start to develop that intuition. Because the one thing that I'll always say with painting is that painting has a feel to it. And it's different from a lot of other art media. I'll definitely say that like drawing or digital art or sculpture all has a feel to it as well. But there's something just very unique to painting, all right? And it just has a feel to it that you have to develop. And in line with that too, what style of blending technique that you choose to use in which circumstances, or if you want to totally negate any of the ones I just taught you, okay? That's something that you need to feel out, because every situation is a little different. Every artist is going to take a different approach. But I hope that you all enjoyed learning how to at least blend in very basic and specific ways, okay? So, thank you very much for watching this, y'all. If you like my content, please do feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been an Art Mentor. See you next time.